Joined by my good pal, Robin Black, and we are told the event in Hamburg, Germany, going down in September, will feature Josh Barnett and Andrei Arlovski, two former UFC heavyweight champions, and apparently it's going to be live right here on Fight Network. Also for UFC 203, Fabricio Werdum, after losing his crown to Stipe Miocic, getting right back on the horse, going to be taking on Big Ben Rothwell. Will Rothwell try to choke out Fabricio Werdum? I think he has something to prove. But first things first, got to talk about the War Master taking on the Pitbull. This is what I love. I just love the idea of it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm sure these guys want title implications. But as fans, I think we just want cool, interesting matchups. And Josh Barnett and Andrei Arlovski, certainly an interesting matchup.
Super awesome. And Josh Barnett is just the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
And partly because he's so incredibly smart, and the way he plays the game and the way he expresses his fighting, it's all super cool. But he used to travel around the world fighting people in whatever organization would pay him money to be a traveling Ronin. You know, you see him in Pride, you see him in just about everything. You see him in Strike Force right here, wherever. He would fight the best available heavyweight in all these different organizations. Because of that, some of these classic matchups have never happened. Yeah. He should have fought Andrei Arlovski by now. How is it possible that he hasn't? Well, now that he's in the UFC, firmly entrenched in the UFC, we get to see these spectacular fights. Andrei Arlovski versus Josh Barnett, that's just unbelievable.
Now, I know a lot of people are going to criticize Andrei Arlovski. We've heard it many times. He's chinny. He got stopped in his last fight. Then he got stopped in the fight before that. People we have to remember. Stipe Miocic stopped him, who's the UFC heavyweight champion, and Alistair Overeem stopped him, who's fighting for the UFC heavyweight championship, who was a former Strikeforce champion, who was a former K1 champion. Andrei Arlovski, a very talented individual. When you're enormous and you know how to punch and you land on somebody's chin, sometimes you're going to fall down to the ground. It's Andrei Arlovski's decisions, it's his movement, it's his athleticism, it's his fight IQ. There are too many reasons to love watching Andrei Arlovski fight.
Spectacular. I don't know if anybody just picked up on that little highlight. As Werdum was storming forward, Arlovski stepped back and caught him. We're going to talk about that fight in a second, about Werdum and Big Ben coming up. But during that fight, Stipe Miocic stepped back, planted, and caught him coming forward. Werdum and many others said, you know, it was a lapse of concentration. We just showed you Arlovski doing that some years back. Werdum stormed forward against Cain like that. Werdum storms forward against everybody like that. It's an aspect of his game. It's something he made work. Sometimes the things that work until they don't. But I digress. Andrei Arlovski, in his last 10 fights, has been stopped twice? Yeah. Maybe, something like that. We got Paul Shaughnessy probably in our ear, can give us the details. But you look up and down it, 10, 11 fights, the guy's been stopped twice. We can't say a heavyweight is chinny under those circumstances. And the last time we talked about this in the podcast, somebody sent me a message and they said, well, yeah, the reason he didn't get knocked out in most of those is because he won. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Watching fighting, you know? Because he won, yeah, exactly why he didn't get stopped. But watching fighting and absorbing it and looking for the beauty and looking for the details, it's fun. We all have these debates and these conversations because of our love of fighting. But look deeply into this one, man. This is a heavyweight fighting the best heavyweights in the world. This guy's not chinny.
I'm with you, and I just right now, when you look at the landscape of the heavyweight division, really one of the best times in mixed martial arts history, and it's because of these different cool matchups, stylistic matchups. How does this fighter match up with this fighter? I think the days of, and you still see it, of grappler versus striker is there, but now it's MMA fighter, but they have a specific style. You know how Josh Barnett, he's a striker, but he has a specific way of fighting in the stand-up department, just like Andrei Arlovski has a specific way. Will they try to solve the riddle that way? Will Barnett try to push him up against the cage? Arlovski knows Barnett's game because he's been around for so long. Will Arlovski decide to try to match up with Josh Barnett up against the cage? Will Barnett try to take him down the ground? There's so many things that you have to look at. But what's interesting is a year ago, I think when Fabricio Werdum became the heavyweight champion, I think a lot of people looked at the landscape of the heavyweight limit and said, okay, we know what's going to happen. It's going to be Fabrizio Werdum. He's going to rematch Cain Velasquez. Chances are Cain Velasquez is going to reclaim his crown, and he's going to go on a run, proving that he is the best heavyweight of the last decade or so. Well, that's all up on its ear right now. Who knows? It could be Travis Brown beating Cain Velasquez when they fight in July. Barnett.
Stipe Miocic is the champion.
Right now, and in Cleveland, in his own backyard, he could very well lose to Alistair Overeem. On that same card, it's Fabrizio Werdum and Big Ben Rothwell. We saw the run that Rothwell went on, tapping out Barnett in the process. However, a lot of people wrote off Junior Dos Santos. He comes back against Rothwell, the same guy that beat Alistair Overeem, but Alistair Overeem beat Junior Dos Santos. I think, yes, people want to focus on the heavyweight championship. I think we should just focus on cool matchups in martial arts.
I agree with you. And there are times where in a division, there is just the guy running it.
John Jones.
Yeah, John Jones. It
Demetrius.
was Anderson Silva. It's Demetrius. It was George. There's often been in divisions a guy running it. But when there isn't, you don't look for that dominant champion. You don't look at just the matchup. Can anybody beat John Jones? Will anybody be able to stop him? They're thinking the Cormier fight is a foregone conclusion, which I don't think. But in heavyweight, you don't look at one guy or the other guy. You look at the whole landscape because these guys are immense. There's that right foot plant drives the right hand in. The plant of the right foot transferred that potential energy, and he ran right into it. But he can be beat just like every other heavyweight. Heavyweight is its own unique animal. There are all these big, powerful, spectacular, interesting, fascinating collections of skills and attributes and body types, and we're just going to put them up against each other for the next year or so and see who rises to the top.
I think the most interesting thing, and I just brought up his name, would be if John Jones manages to defeat Daniel Cormier, and I know AJ feels that he would be a good test for John Jones. But based on what we've seen of John Jones, I think a move up to heavyweight, to me, would be one of the most interesting things in all of mixed martial arts.
I think it would too. And Jones has, we got 199 coming up.
Yeah.
The second that thing goes by, and we're going to be talking about it all week long, there's some brilliant fights on there. But the second that goes by, we're going to be thinking about 200. And we're going to look very closely at Jones versus Cormier. We shouldn't write off Dan Cormier. We shouldn't think this is a foregone conclusion. And Jones certainly shouldn't. But if he does get past him, what's the next logical thing? And that is fighting at heavyweight.
Yeah, and I also look at, Cain Velasquez, I brought up his name. This is a guy that seems to have all the skills, seems to have the drive, gets the opportunity to train with two of the best fighters on the UFC's roster. Does he have the motivation? Does he want to become a UFC champion again? Or does he just want to be a prize fighter? And if that is the case, does he have the motivation to push past everything he needs to get himself to the championship level?
We shall see, man. Travis Brown is a tough assignment.
Oh, man. Coming up this weekend, though, it is the rematch between Luke Rockhold and Michael Bisping, this time for the middleweight championship. Tune into FN this Thursday at 7 p.m. as we present a 1-hour preview show leading into all the action in California.